Good morning. I woke up at 4:40 this morning so that I can have some time alone. It's going to be a busy day. It's lovely to have people who want to be with you, but it's not always the ideal situation for an introvert. Laches day 6. I do need my Plato. Suppose, however, Socrates says, that we admit the principle of which we are speaking to a certain extent. To what extent and what principle do you mean? The principle of endurance. If you agree, we too must endure and persevere in the inquiry. And then courage will not laugh at our faint-heartedness in searching for courage, which after all may frequently be endurance. Beautifully said. We too must persevere in the inquiry, and then courage will not laugh at our faint-heartedness in searching for courage. I am ready to go on, Socrates, and yet I am unused to investigations of this sort. I am ready to go on, Socrates, and yet I am unused to investigations of this sort. But the spirit of controversy has been aroused in me by what has been said, and I am really grieved at being thus unable to express my meaning. For I fancy that I do know the nature of courage, but somehow or other she has slipped away from me, and I cannot get hold of her and tell her nature. If you've ever practiced dialectic into Laches, you know exactly what he means. It feels as if you know her, but you just can't say who she is, all of her virtues. Socrates. But, my dear friend, should not the good sportsman follow the track and not give up? Certainly he should. Shall we then invite Nicias to join us? He may be better at the sport than we are. What do you say? I should like that. Come then, Nicias, and do what you can to help your friends, who are tossing on the waves of argument, and at the last gasp. You see our extremity and may save us and also settle your own opinion, if you tell us what you think about courage. Nicias. I have been thinking, Socrates, that you and Laches are not defining courage in the right way, for you have forgotten an excellent saying which I have heard from your own lips. It's often the case that when you play the observer, it seems so clear to you whether people are going right and where they are going wrong. It's only when you yourself speak or listen that it's not that clear. So I'm supposed, because I always hear John mention that one of these dudes are like total first person, and one is like, this is my opinion and that's what I feel, that's what my gut tells me, and the other one is completely, this is what the other people say. So I'm guessing Laches then is the one who goes with the first person gut feeling, first thing that comes up to him, and Nicias is the one who goes with the third person definitions that he has heard from learned people. And apparently what we're looking for is the second person perspective. So what this dialogue and all the others illustrate. What is it, Nicias? I have often heard you say that every man is good in that in which he is wise, and bad in that in which he is unwise. That is certainly true, Nicias. And therefore, if the brave man is good, he is also wise. Do you hear him, Laches? Yes, I hear him, but I do not very well understand him. I think that I understand him, Socrates said, And he appears to me to mean that courage is a sort of wisdom, probably Sophrosyne. Every time I look up wisdom, it's Sophrosyne. What sort of wisdom, Socrates? That is a question which you must ask of him. Yes. Tell him then, Nicias, what sort of wisdom you think courage to be. For you surely do not mean the wisdom which plays the flute. Certainly not. Nor the wisdom that plays the lyre. No. But what is this wisdom then, and of what? So Socrates is one of those people, I'm one of those people too, that sees when you get a laugh about a certain type of joke, you kind of repeat the joke. But what is this knowledge then, and of what? I think that you put the question to him very well, Socrates, and I would like him to say what is the nature of his knowledge or wisdom. Nicias, I mean to say, Laches, that courage is the knowledge of that which inspires fear or confidence in war, or in anything. Knowledge of what inspires fear or confidence. It's courage. Laches, how strangely he is talking, Socrates. Why do you say so, Laches? Why, surely courage is one thing and wisdom another. That is just what Nicias denies. Yes, that is what he denies. That is where he is so silly. Suppose that we instruct instead of abuse him. Certainly, Socrates, but having been proved to be talking nonsense himself, Laches wants to prove that I have been doing the same. Oh, these bantering between the boys is cute. Very true, Nicias, and you are talking nonsense, as I shall endeavor to show. Let me ask you a question. Do not physicians know the dangers of disease? Or do the courageous know them? Or are the physicians the same as courageous? Nicias, not at all. No more than the husbandmen who know the dangers of husbandry, or than other craftsmen who have a knowledge of that which inspires them with fear or confidence in their own arts. And yet they are not courageous a whit the more for that. What do you think of Laches' argument, Nicias? He appears to be saying something of importance, Socrates says. Nicias. Yes, he is saying something, but it is not true. How so? Why, because he thinks that the physician's knowledge of illness extends beyond the nature of health and disease. But in fact the physician knows no more than this. Do you imagine, Laches, that he knows whether health or illness is the more terrible to a man? Had not many a man better never get up from a sick bed? I should like to know whether you think that life is always better than death. May not death often be the better of the two? That's a good point. I kind of read it somewhere in the beautiful philosopher's words this morning as well. Laches, yes, certainly so, in my opinion. And do you think that the same things are terrible to those who had better die, and to those who had better live? Certainly not. And do you suppose that the physician knows this, or indeed any other specialist, except the man who is skilled in the grounds of fear and hope? And him I call the courageous, the man who is skilled in the grounds of fear and hope. But when are you courageous? When you act when there's fear, or when you act when there's hope? It seems for courage there needs to be both fear and hope. Do you understand his meaning, Laches? Socrates asked. Yes, I suppose that. In his way of speaking, the soothsayers are the courageous men. For who but one of them can know to whom to die or to live is better? And yet, Nicias, would you allow that you are yourself a soothsayer, or are you neither a soothsayer nor courageous? Oh, these men, they're so cute. What? Do you mean to say that the soothsayer ought to know the grounds of hope or fear? Indeed I do. Who but he? Much rather I should say he of whom I speak, for the soothsayer ought to know only the signs of things that are about to come to pass, whether it be death or disease, or loss of poverty, or victory, or defeat in war or in any other sort of contest, but whether the suffering or not suffering of these things will be the best for a man is a question which is no more for a soothsayer to decide than for anyone else. And this is true. You can see the signs, you can read the signs, but you can't say whether it is good or ill. I cannot understand that Nicias would be at Socrates, Laches says. What Nicias would be at Socrates, for he represents the courageous as neither a soothsayer, nor a physician, nor any other character, unless he means to say that he is a god. My opinion is that he does not like honestly to confess that he is talking nonsense, but that he shuffles up and down in order to conceal the difficulty into which he has got himself. You and I, Socrates, might have practiced a similar shuffle just now if we had only wanted to avoid the appearance of inconsistency. And if we had been arguing in a court of law, there might have been reason in so doing. But why should a man deck himself out with vain words at a meeting of friends such as this? That is also interesting. The need to want to avoid the want to avoid appearance of inconsistency, because quite frankly, I think the only way to truthfully speak is to speak inconsistently. There are so many sides to everything. Socrates. I quite agree with you, Laches, that you should not, but perhaps Nicias is serious and not merely talking for the sake of talking. Let us ask him just to explain what he means. How they talk about each other like the other one's not there, it's precious. And if he has reason on his side, we will agree with him. If not, we will instruct him. Like, either agree or instruct, that's good. He's making fun of them. Do you ask him, Socrates, if you will? I think I have asked enough, Laches says. I do not see why I should not, and my questioning will do for both of us. Very good. Then tell me, Nicias, or rather tell us, for Laches and I are partners in the argument, do you mean to affirm that courage is the knowledge of the grounds of hope and fear? I do. And not every man has this knowledge. The physician and the soothsayer have it not, and they will not be courageous unless they acquire it. Is that what you are saying? I was. Then this is certainly not a thing which every soul would know, as the proverb says, and therefore she could not be courageous. I think not. Clearly not, Nicias. Not even the soul of Cromaeon would be called by you courageous. And this I say not as a joke, but because I think that he who assents to your doctrine cannot allow that any wild beast is courageous, unless he admits that a lion, or a leopard, or perhaps a boar, has such a degree of wisdom that he knows things which but a few human beings ever know by reason of their difficulty. He who takes your view of courage must affirm that a lion is not naturally more disposed to courage than a stag, nor a bull than a monkey. It seems to me that, well, probably Socrates would have been able to take a huge piss at me as well. But courage is exactly that, not knowing if there are grounds for fear or hope, but acting anyways. Courage is in the unknowing, not in the knowing, which Socrates, I think, said earlier, if you know, then that's not courage, you just know. So where's the challenge? Have a beautiful day.